This is interesting. In 1999, I believe, Ron Motley made a statement. Now, he had just collected a lot of money from tobacco litigation. And he made a statement. The statement was, I'm going to spend a lot of this money on lead paint litigation. And if I don't have the paint industry on their knees by 2003, I'll give them my boat. Now that boat, now this is a quote from the Dallas Morning News, I didn't make this up. That boat is actually a 127-foot yacht, I'm told. I've not seen it, and I don't know anything about yachts because I'm not in that financial range. But all I want to do, and I know Fidelma works with Mr. Motley, but if there's anybody out there, where's the boat? Because I'd like to have that boat. I'd like to sell it and defray some of the cost of this litigation we've been involved in. A lawsuit was filed by the state of Rhode Island. And that lawsuit was filed against 5 corporate defendants. And it alleged that they were involved in a public nuisance. And the public nuisance was lead pigment in paint on homes in Rhode Island. That was, I think, 8 years ago. First trial ended in a mistrial with 4 of the 6 jurors voting for the defendants. So it was tried again, and there was a verdict rendered. And I'll be giving you some background on it as we go, but that verdict was rendered against the defendants. So here we are. I saw a magazine the other day. There's this neat thing going on where they give you numbers. I don't know if you've seen it, you know, like 10, which means something, and 11 means something else. So I thought I would do that. Now this may fall flat. If it does, please don't hold that against my client, you know. But I'm going to try this. Let's do lead paint by the numbers. 169. That's the number of rental properties. And this information comes from the Department of Health, State of Rhode Island. Number of rental properties that received a second notice of violation. This is current now. To correct lead hazards in the property. 91. It's the number of Rhode Island properties currently identified as the source of multiple lead poisoning. Now, lead poisoning amongst people is defined as 10 micrograms per deciliter. I always turn those around because the reason I'm a lawyer is I couldn't make it through chemistry. But 10 micrograms per deciliter of blood. Okay? Now, there are 91 homes or places in Rhode Island that are currently identified where there have been more than one instance of that happening. 36, and this is a truly outrageous number because this number hasn't changed in 7 years. 36 properties have been declared unsafe for human habitation by the state of Rhode Island's Department of Public Health. Now, if I were the Attorney General and had been the Attorney General for the state of Rhode Island for 9 years, you know, whether or not corporations are responsible, I ought to stop that. You know exactly how to reach those people. I can go on Google and find out. In fact, I've done it. There's an address, and there's an owner, and there's an address for the owner. You can find these people and you can make them do something about that if your primary motivation is protecting children. 0. Well, that's the number of these property owners that the Rhode Island trial court allowed my client and the other defendants to add into this lawsuit. Because if the Rhode Island Attorney General isn't going to do it, working through his contingency fee counsel, then we would do it. But no, the Attorney General filed a motion to sever and stay that proceeding. So those people with that record and those kids being poisoned just keep on for 7 years. That's what the Attorney General, through his contingency fee counsel, did. 320, big number. For 15 years, all 15 years, that's the total, a little less than 30 a year, referrals by the Department of Health to the Attorney General of Rhode Island for prosecution under law in Rhode Island. That is the law that says you can't do that if you're a landowner, if you're a property owner, if you're a landlord, if you're a slumlord. You can't do that. That's against the law. 320 referrals in 15 years. Now, 240,000, that's a number we can all relate to. That's the total number of housing units that the Contingency Fee Counsel, representing the Attorney General, says that my client and others have to abate in 3 years. 240,000. That's virtually every dwelling in Rhode Island that's older than 1978. Now, this is an interesting fact. Rhode Island's own statistics point out that 10 to 20% of the children in that state have elevated blood levels from the public water system. The state itself is putting lead into the children. 20%. Give me the benefit of the doubt. Take the higher number. 20%. 60 plus. That's a good one. You all are going to relate to this, folks. The number of years that cars and trucks have used gasoline with tetraethyl lead in it. You and I, when we were growing up, knew it as leaded gasoline. There wasn't any other kind. It was an additive. Everybody put lead in gasoline, and it got put out the back end of the truly uniquely American concept of an automobile, lots of them, driving all the time. And I'm telling you, look at the numbers, 250,000 tons of lead were released into this environment in this country alone. Where did it go? It's not in the paint. Where did it go? It's in the dirt, it's on the houses, it's in the schoolyards, it's everywhere. You know, I'm just a dumb kid from Kansas. I can go out in the middle of a wheat field, and you can find a blood lead level in kids in western Kansas at 2. You can go to Kathmandu in the Himalayas, and you can find the blood lead level of 2. Lead is ubiquitous, folks. It's everywhere. Now, this is an aside. If you want to sue somebody who's putting lead in paint, I can give you 2 right now, and they haven't been sued. Mattel and China. Knock yourself out. They are putting lead in paint, because in a minute you're going to find out who's not and who hasn't been. 0. The number of enforcement actions or abatement proceedings commenced by the Attorney General acting through Contingency Fee Counsel against water suppliers, including the Rhode Island government itself, manufacturers of tetraethyl lead, and manufacturers of the products that use tetraethyl lead. That means cars. 0. We're not interested in that, I guess. 21. Well, this requires a little explanation. You're probably saying, what are you doing standing up here ranting and raving? Well, I'm trying not to rant and rave, but what am I doing here? Well, I represent a client that acquired a company called Millennium Holdings that 21 years ago held stock in a paint company. You probably heard of it, Glidden Paint. We held the stock.